Hey there, A's Day fans. Welcome to our Tuesday edition of our show. I'm your host, Joe Grotto. Hope each and every one of you had a great weekend and your weeks are off to a productive and strong start. Today is Tuesday, December 9th. We wanted to wait an extra day for the first day of winter meetings have come and gone. We are in full swing of day 2. There have been some major free agent signings announced, not A's related, and we wanted to see if the A's would be engaged in any talks. We'll be sure to roll along in today's episode and let you know what rumors are out there circulating with the A's. Don't want to be a spoiler, but it's going to be pretty short in that department. A's continue adding depth to their minor league roster, potentially a major league infielder depth piece if all shakes out. Michael Stefanic is signed to a 1-year minor league deal with an invitation to spring training. We'll discuss what that means for the 2026 A's. And then we'll round out today's show talking about 2 candidates that are primed for a big bounce back in 2026 after having disappointing 2025 campaigns. Holy Toledo, let's go A's. All right there, A's Day fans. Thank you again for taking part of your Tuesday or whenever you're listening to this episode to listen to our thoughts on everything A's baseball. Before we get into today's show, just want to give you a reminder of where you can find us. As normal, you can find us wherever you listen to your favorite audio podcasts. Continue to like us, whether that's listen to us, like, subscribe, download, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify Music, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, whatever the case may be. Continue to listen to us. We appreciate all of your support. And again, taking time to hear our thoughts on everything related to the A's. And be sure to check out our social media channels on Instagram at A's Day Baseball, on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram at A's Day Baseball Podcast, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at A's Day Baseball. And be sure to follow along our YouTube channel for video edition episodes. If you are watching right now, they are all available on our YouTube channel. You'll see the green logo, just like you are viewing right now. Wherever you find A's Day, you'll see that green logo. You can't miss us. Be sure to continue to like, subscribe us there too as well as enjoying baseball player interviews, A's player interviews, baseball destination, virtual guides for where the A's may be playing on the road, or perhaps just like some hot spots we highlighted during our trip to Mesa, at the home of the A's spring training, and other content to follow in 2026 and beyond. Be sure to check us out there. And to become an official subscriber of A's Day, check out our Patreon site, patreon.com/A's Day for just $2 a month. You'll be entered to win monthly A's Day t-shirts, A's autographed memorabilia, future A's game, tickets, and so much more as we are able to grow this platform collaboratively. All right, let's get to our first topic of discussion today. And just for housekeeping, you can expect a little bit of a shorter episode today just because there aren't a ton of rumors or engagements for the initial onset of the week of winter meetings. So the A's continue their flurry of minor league deals, 1-year contracts to add depth to their organization. The A's and infielder Michael Stefanic have agreed to a minor league deal. The deal, like I mentioned at the top of the show, does come with an invitation to Major League Spring Training for the upcoming year. Stefanic, he will turn 30 in February, has made cameos at the big league level in each of the first 4 MLB seasons. He originally got his professional start by signing as an undrafted free agent back in 2018 with the Angels. He has spent a lot of up and down years between the minor leagues and the majors. He hasn't really found his consistent footing at the major league level in one single home. Across 99 games in his major league career and 289 plate appearances, he's batted .227 for a batting average of .314 on base and a .267 slug, with his best stint coming at the big league level with the Angels in 2023, when he slashed a solid .290 batting average with .380 on base and a .355 slug across 25 games. Those are excellent on base numbers, but a .333 BABIP was helped. He wasn't able to replicate that due to a paltry 22.2 hard hit rate percentage and a 0% barrel rate. That is not a formula for success for consistent outcomes at the major league level. The A's do bring in Stefanic as some much needed infield depth behind a group that is largely unproven heading into 2026 outside of AL Rookie of the Year and All-Star Game starting shortstop Jacob Wilson. They do have some nice pieces, like we've mentioned on previous episodes, like Darryl Hernandez. Max Muncy is poised to really take a stranglehold on a starting position. Just with him, he's just got to stay healthy and show a little bit more consistency, I would say. Then Zach Geloff, who's been even more of a mystery between his health concerns and inconsistencies at the plate. You wonder what his long-term outlook proves to be for the A's. So there's a lot of question marks in this area, and that's why they have been tied to rumors of wanting to upgrade at second base or third base. So you wonder here, not saying that Stefanic is necessarily a move to drive the needle, but if the A's remain quiet in this offseason, there is a strong inclination that Stefanic is going to have an opportunity to win a job on this 26-man roster heading into next season. And I think at the outlook of this move, I look at it as purely depth, right? I look at it as a just in case. This can't be the way the A's operate for the duration of this offseason, because if so, then 2026 I don't think is going to hold as much promise as the team's performance seems to be trending towards. There's a lot to like how they ended this past season. Their offense is humming, but I think there's a lot to be desired in terms of pitching depth. And I think where they want to improve at second base or third base, no offense to Stefanic, but I don't think it's going to move that needle. And I think he has every opportunity to win a job on this roster, but it should be filling a role at multiple positions as compared to winning an everyday job. If he is on this roster, I do think something horribly went wrong this offseason, to be honest. That means they weren't rampant in this offseason, or they got outpriced on the market, didn't line up with any suitable trade partners, whatever the case may be. I just really hope they don't remain stingy with their payroll options, because there has been a promise that there is going to be an increase in payroll spending. So they must do it wisely, because I know they're not going to dish out an abundance of financials, but I do know there is some flexibility there. And if their mission is to improve second or third base, it can't stop with these one-year signing deals that are just adding depth to your organization. Because more chances than not, if you have the offseason that you're supposed to, Stefanic is most likely going to spend the duration of the 2026 season. Maybe he gets a cup of coffee at the big league level, but the majority and bulk of his season should be spent at AAA. So don't really know how to feel about this move. I think just still waiting for the A's offseason to really get going. Just getting alerted on these one-year minor league deals aren't doing it for me. I just want to see them address an area of need where it seems like a lot of other teams around the league are off and running, while the A's have remained rather quiet. And speaking of that, let's get into any rumblings around the A's at the winter meetings that have kicked off yesterday down in Orlando, Florida. They're going to be taking place from yesterday all the way through December 11th. In the midst of that, on tomorrow, the Rule 5 draft is going to be taking place, so we'll be sure to talk about the results of that in terms of from the A Scope on Friday's show. So it should be a very busy week. All teams are engaged in conversations with general managers, front offices, players, whatever the case may be, trying to find different pathways to improve their club. And there have been a couple of free agent announcements that actually came through this morning with some major free agent players that I don't believe the A's even had a toe in those camps. But Kyle Schwarber is staying in Philly, and Edwin Diaz is actually going to be the closer for the Dodgers next year. So talk about the rich getting richer. But nothing associated with the A's in terms of major moves or anything like that. One thing that we did hear a little bit about was the nature of the Ketel Marte trade market. So it seems like the Diamondbacks do have somewhat of a lukewarm willingness to move Marte, but it would have to be at the right price. And it sounds like purposely their initial asking price is quite steep, where they want some sort of prospect package and on top of that 1 to 2 major league ready arms. Now, if it's one and you want to bundle some prospects with that, I would say the A's have a dog in that fight, because hypothetically, you could have a little prospect package of a couple bats, maybe another arm, and then you can throw in Luis Severino as that major league ready arm. Maybe Arizona, that home stadium may treat him a little bit better. I know some balls fly there too as well. I don't know how much drastically his home performance would improve from there. I'm sure it would a little bit, but nevertheless, I do think in a situation like that, the Diamondbacks may be willing to listen. But anything further than that, I think you're asking a little bit too much, at least from the A's perspective. Ketel Marte would drastically improve your offense that already is an area of strength. You add that veteran leadership, and while the defense hasn't been the best, he's still going to be your best option as currently as the second base options performed during the 2025 season. I know some are mixed sample sizes, but Marte, you're getting a stable veteran, someone that's done it at the high level for quite some time now, at the top of your order. And I think a lot of these younger hitters can learn some more plate discipline and having those contact and gap-to-gap skills that Marte utilizes to make him such a all-around versatile hitter. But I'm not, in this situation, I'm not saying there have been any rumors saying that the A's are tied to a deal like this. I'm just talking about a hypothetical of how they would land something like that. And anything further than that, I don't know if it's worth pulling the trigger, because at the end of the day, you're still going to be taking on $90 million. You're probably going to eat that. And then plus, he is still age 32, so I would still say he's got a couple of all-star caliber seasons left in him. But then for those back 3 of those years where he signed through his, I believe, age 36 or 37 seasons, that may be a lot of a financial commitment to a guy that may have fallen short of where he once was. So that's just some things to keep in mind. That's something we'll continue to monitor here. Like I said, I think there are going to be several teams involved in this camp, so I don't know what percentage chance to even put the A's at landing a trade like this. But boy, would that move the needle and signal a changing of the times where the A's finally do seem like they would be going for it. That would be a big name that you bring to a lineup that has a lot of young ascending guys, and I think that would bring a lot of excitement that the A's are diving into the postseason discussion. I think it would have, that move would make that much of magnitude across baseball circles. And then the other main rumor that we're really hearing is Luis Severino is still a name of interest in terms of teams wanting to trade for him. So Severino is owed $48 million over the next 2 years. There are reports that there are teams out there that would be willing to take on that money, but then the A's wouldn't recoup much in terms of prospects or major league ready arms or players in return. So that might not make it as appealing for the A's to want to move on from Sevy, who is prepping to start the second year of a 3-year contract. I would think that if you are going to move on from someone like Sevy, you want to get players in return, or at least prospects in return. I think if you're just exchanging money, you're getting that off the books. I don't think that's an area that the A's are struggling in. I know they have one of the lower payrolls, but I think that's by choice. And I think they do have room for growth there. So taking Severino's money off the books, yes, would that open the door for them to be able to bring in and spend a lot more in different areas? Probably. But at the end of the day, they're still not going to reach the plateau payroll having his money off. I don't think they would go on that much of a spending spree in response to that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that Forrest has the ear of ownership and they are liking the way that he's operating and seeing how this team is progressing and getting ready for their move to Vegas too as well. So maybe there would be more of a willingness to put more of a championship-style product on the field day in and day out. But in terms of losing Severino, I think it would have to be right. I'm really thinking that year 2 is going to be better than what we saw in year 1. So depending how this season goes, if the A's have another tough first half, maybe Severino is a name that is brought up at this year's trade deadline once again. But besides from that, no noise at winter meetings, and that's disappointing. And I know we're only in the midst of day 2 here from Florida, but this is an important offseason, and I've mentioned this on previous episodes too as well. This team has a ton of momentum moving in the right direction. You have a good general manager. You have good offensive talent on the field. Some arms that you like, but you'd like to add some depth. This is a team that increased their win total by 7 between 2024 and 25, ending with 76 wins. And in today's game, a quick turnaround is more likely than it once was. The Toronto Blue Jays, they won 74 games. in 2024, won 94 this past year, and were an inch away from winning the World Series. So the fact that there always has to be this continuous slog and slow rebuild to get back to relevance, that's the thing of the past if you do it the right way. And this is a free agent class. While it doesn't seem like it has the depth all across the board as compared to some other years, there is a lot of top-end talent that could move the needle for your team. There are starting pitchers available that you can add to the top of the rotation. I know they're dwindling now, but there are still some impact closers that you can start establishing your bullpen identity with Suarez and Fairbanks as options that are still out there. So I hope this is just the start of a week where maybe the A's get going later today or tomorrow, getting involved in some rumors, but we have heard nothing. All we've heard about is who they may trade away. Even heard that there could be a move with the Marlins. Maybe the A's add some pitching there, and Tyler Soderstrom would be involved as a bat. I don't want to hear about these guys that should be here. Like Tyler Soderstrom is coming off putting it together at the big league level for the first time from pole to pole. And there's a lot to like there. He was probably your most consistent performer from start to finish if I had to put it on one guy. You don't want to give up on that when it's just getting going. With him being so young, being such a talented at multi-positions, having a willingness to be a team guy and be slotted in as the everyday first baseman, and all of a sudden a position you hadn't played all spring, but due to the emergence of Nick Kurtz, who is primarily and solely a first baseman, Soderstrom had a willingness to go to left field to keep his bat in the lineup, and he ended up being a Gold Glove finalist because he put that extra work in. You want guys like that in your organization. And yes, like I said, pitching is a need, but you also don't want to move too many pillars of your future success. And Soderstrom, in my opinion, is one of those pillars. So I want to hear over these next few days at least one or two rumors with the A's involved in some sort of talks about bringing in a frontline starter, jumping into these talks with one of these closers. I think more realistic would be Fairbanks. Just getting some of those good fortunes and good baseball business practices into the ether. These teams need to know that you're serious. And in our Bases, Barrels, and Ball Players podcast earlier, I was talking about how Pittsburgh is notoriously known as not being spend-friendly. And this year they're announcing their offers unlike any other team. To me, it kind of seems like maybe it's a smokescreen to kind of try to show the baseball world that they're trying. But I don't think they're giving it their full effort. But I do think there is something, at least going there forthright, that they're trying to build a team around their young pitching staff. They're trying to do something. They have the opposite. They need a lot of help on the offensive side of the baseball. So, hey, maybe the A's and Pirates link up as good trade partners over this offseason. Maybe that's something we can analyze as we move along December and January. But the fact that it's been so quiet from the A's as compared to a lot of other teams worries me a little bit. I know there's time over this week, but I want to look this afternoon that the A's are engaged in some talks, or tomorrow. It's got to get going. Because if it doesn't, you're at a crossroads that you're really banking on internal options, or you're banking on trade, which that is still on the table, of course, but that is even less out of your control than just meeting one-on-one with your potential free agent. Because yes, you have other teams and suitors, but all it comes down to is the best contract for both parties involved and getting a deal done, as compared to all the surrounding factors of getting a trade done with another team. There are additional factors that make getting a trade harder, in my opinion, than landing a free agent. So, that's all that's really been going on in terms of winter meetings. Hopefully for Friday's show, we've got more to discuss, like I said, over the next couple of days. There is still time, so hopefully the A's get those talks going. But at the moment, it's been rather quiet. Like even that Ketel Marte rumor, there's nothing that really directly links the A's as compared to that, besides that one article that came out as a potential trade partner. But besides that, I don't even know if they just discussed anything with Arizona during these winter meetings. I guess we'll have to monitor that situation as we move along. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to thank one of our supporters up in Sacramento, do a quick ad read for Tom's Watch Bar in Sacramento, and then get back to the final segment of this edition of A's Day. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Level up your game day experience with a menu that goes beyond the ordinary. From elevated sports bar classics to chef-driven dishes and bold crave-worthy flavors, every bite is crafted to delight. Pair it with an ice cold beer, a handcrafted cocktail, or a refreshing seltzer, and you might just forget you're in a sports bar. Head on down to Tom's Watch Bar, located steps from the Golden One Arena, home to the Sacramento Kings. They are at Tom's Watch Bar, Sacramento's biggest sports bar, Sacramento's biggest sports party, home to 50 plus beers, 75 plus TV screens, and 50 plus specialty cocktails. Every game, every day, all games that matter. All right, let's get to our last topic of discussion for today and touch on two prime bounce-back candidates, in my opinion, on the current A's roster. So the way we picked these guys, we chose two players for varying reasons that we believe that they underperformed in 2025, but trends say that there is a possibility that 2026 can look a lot better for these two green and gold players. So let's talk about, in this situation, we're going to choose one pitcher and then one hitter. Let's start on the mound with our talk here. And I think this candidate is kind of obvious. We've been talking about him being wrapped in trade rumors. That's something that's followed him for the duration of 2025, it seems like. Talking about the A's ace, number 40, Luis Severino. On the 2025 campaign, he made 29 starts, pitched to an 8-11 win-loss record with a 4.54 ERA and 162 and two-thirds innings pitched. He issued 50 walks, struck out 124 batters, and pitched to a 1.30 whip. His splits, he was the prime example of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in terms of performance. Away, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball in terms of road performance. He pitched to a 6-2 win-loss record with a 3.02 ERA. This was in 14 starts. He logged 80 and a third innings pitched, issued 21 walks, 56 strikeouts, and a 107 whip. As compared to at home, which is normally where a pitcher would consider their friendly confines, that was not the case for Severino pitching at Sutter Health Park. In 2025, unfortunately, he pitched to a 2-9 win-loss record with a 6.01 ERA. In 15 games started, he logged 82 and one-third innings pitched, issuing 29 walks, 68 strikeouts, and a 1.53 whip. I mean, even if you cut that in half, you can get Severino's numbers into the high threes, which would look a lot better in terms of overall performance. It's easy to say that the A's, who issued the largest free agent contract in the John Fisher era, were vastly disappointed in the outcome for year one of this 3-year contract. He was signed on to be the ace, and he failed to live up to those expectations. Missed a little bit of time in the summer, and then when he did come back, he did finish the season on a strong note. So there is hope for a bounce back in 2026, because over his final 5 starts, when he did return from injury, he looked a lot more like the Sevy that the A's thought they were getting from the start. Over his final 5 starts, he pitched to a 2-0 win-loss record with a 3.08 ERA. In 26 and a third innings pitched, issued 6 walks, 21 strikeouts, and a 1.10 whip. If you're getting that from your ace, things are going to look a lot better, and the tone is going to be set for your pitching staff as a whole. Guys really feed off that positive momentum. So I think they really need a more consistent Sevy in 2026 if they want to have a chance to get into that postseason discussion. Year 2 of the free agent, I have mentioned this in the past too as well, but for any free agent that first year, you are getting used to a new environment, a new home, a new routine, a new stadium. Everything is brand new. Even to a guy like Severino, who is a vet at the major league level. He spent all of his career in New York, between the bulk of it being with the Yankees and 1 season with the Mets. Now he's in a completely different part of the country. He is still coming back, in my opinion, to really reestablish himself as one of the better arms in this game after he spent some years battling through injury. And I think being slotted into a more hitter-friendly park as a guy that is a high strikeout guy, but has typically fallen victim to the home run because with the higher velo in his game, he's typically more of a fly ball pitcher. That served as a nasty formula, especially over the first half of the 2025 campaign. And you can see it didn't get a whole lot better at home for him, pitching to a 6 ERA. But I do think as the season went along, it seemed like he got more of an established routine where you saw a couple of better home starts, especially his last one of the 2025 season. You wonder if he's adjusted to that. Plus, he has much more positive communication channels with the baseball operations team. I believe that Sevy, over in all aspects of this game, physically and mentally, is going to be in a much better place in 2026 as compared to this past season. Baseball, it's a game of adjustments, but not just with your on-field performance, but in all aspects of your life. So that'll take time for anyone to adjust. Some guys are quicker adapters, and others it takes a little bit longer. And I'm going to bank on that. Not that I'm saying that Severino is going to be that 19-8 guy at the peak of his powers during his times with the Yankees, but I do think you could see a version of him that what he was like with the Mets, even a little bit better, which the A's would be more than happy with. So I'm really banking on Severino. I think he's got his feet underneath him, and I'm sure it doesn't help having these trade rumors continuously swirl around your name. And I know partially is part of the feelings that he had of his initial time with the A's, which led to some early trade rumors during year one of his contract. And I think with the money owed and how there are teams out there in the market looking for starting pitching help, Severino is just going to be the most prime candidate, especially when teams are looking for major league ready arms. So all that into one formula means Sevy's name is going to be swirling in rumors for quite some time. But I do think this still has the opportunity to be a better union in 2026. Again, I won't be surprised if it's a lot more of familiarity where he looks great on the road and still struggles at home. That won't shock me, but I do think it's still going to be better than what we saw this past year. All right, and then let's step into the batter's box and talk about our second candidate that I think is due for a bounce back in a big way in 2026. Of course, we're talking about number 4 outfielder Lawrence Butler. Over the 2025 campaign, he played in 152 games, batted .234 with 21 home runs, 63 runs batted in, 59 walks, 179 strikeouts, 22 stolen bases, and a .710 OPS. On the year, he was a much better home hitter. He enjoyed the friendly confines of Sutter Health Park. He batted .261 at home as compared to .208 on the road. It just seemed like one of those years that he just couldn't quite get it going. There were like flashes where it seemed like he was going to start breaking out of a slump, but then he would start going back into some of his old ways and maybe press a little bit too much. But in the first half of the year, there was some bright spots. It wasn't what we thought, but thought it left some hope for a strong second half. Over the first half, he played in 93 games, batted .251 with 13 home runs, 40 RBIs, and a .759 OPS. Again, nothing that's going to jump off the page, but I guess from the outlook, that's serviceable enough. But then it really took a dip for the worse over the final 59 games of his second half of his season. He only hit .203 with 8 home runs, 23 RBIs, and a .620 OPS. So it seemed like at times he was caught in this pressing and guessing situation. And I think the more pitches he saw, it got him into a 2-strike situation where he was thinking. And there were a lot of times I feel like he was striking out looking, where he was sitting on one pitch and he got something else. And then when he was pressing too much, he saw that chase percentage increase. So I think there was a lot that went wrong mentally at the plate that I think that Butler just needs to take a step back. And I think getting to this end of this season was most important, because I think we saw a lot to like in terms of what he offered defensively, and he is their main stolen base threat. So those tools were on full display, and I think a very important contribution to this year's team. But I think the A's were counting on a lot more out of Butler in terms of the expectation of him being the everyday leadoff hitter. 179 strikeouts and the amount of guess that I saw in this game is not going to be ideal to be your long-term leadoff hitter. Now, I know he is still on the young side, and there is still more development that can take place. But I think he's going to have to simplify his approach, see it and hit it. And I think he's going to have to take the pitch where it's given and go with it. Because I think there are times when Butler looks really good, he has that willingness to go to the opposite field. He has that natural raw power. He doesn't have to force it. It's just going to jump off his bat. He's a very strong player. But I think when he gets into a hole, he starts getting a little bit too happy, trying to drive the ball with authority when he doesn't have to. But when he's living to that opposite field approach, I think you see a better version of it. You see the doubles increase. You see more of a fight with 2 strikes. And I think that walk percentage does leave a lot to be desired and could see an increase in performance too as well. Those are two areas that I don't feel like Butler is in the situation where he should be the team's leadoff hitter just yet. And maybe he can develop into that because on the onset, with all the tools that he can offer, he does have the prototype player build to be the ideal leadoff hitter. But I just think with his approach at the moment, I don't think that would be best for his overall development yet. Maybe we'll talk about this in 2027, 28. Maybe he gets off to a great start in 2026, and we can have that discussion later on. But I think he could still be a top of the order guy, middle of the order. But I don't think the leadoff spot is going to do him justice just quite yet. Because also doing a deeper dive into his numbers, it seemed like when he was just seeing reacting and getting his pitch early in the count, he had more success. Over the course of the 2025 season, he actually batted .280 when he swung at the first pitch, as compared to .206 when he didn't. So that is a drastic split. To me, that shows that once he got past that first pitch, maybe when he's getting into these two-strike counts, he loses some of that confidence. Like I said, some of those backward Ks, I think he was caught guessing. And then when he tries to do too much, he starts chasing. Those are just a poor formula for any consistent success. So I think, if anything, Butler, see your pitch early in the count and drive it, and then and drive it to all fields. Use the whole field. You have the skill set to do it. And I know there is a willingness, and you can see there's an effort that he does want to make it happen, but I just think there just needs to be a little bit more emphasis in those areas. And with all that, I do think that is going to be the focus of his off-season programming, where you are going to see an uptick in performance of his opera percentage. Don't be surprised if you see that increase, especially early in the year. But I think there is a strong chance that when we look at Lawrence Butler's numbers a year from now, they're going to look a lot more like we expected at the onset of when he signed that 7-year contract. You're going to see one of the budding young stars of this game, I think, really start to get the national audience's attention. I think he'll have a much better year. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be an all-star campaign, but I do think you'll see an increase in walks and some decrease in the strikeout. It just has to be. And then what he can offer with the glove and stolen bases, there's a lot to like about Butler in 2026. And you wonder if the right coaches get in his ear and he puts in the work this offseason, which I believe he will, I think you're going to see a much better version of Butler in 2026, and definitely going to potentially look on 2025 as just one of those anomalies of a down year. Good luck to Sevy and Butler. Looking forward to having tons of A's Day episodes in the future, making you one of our 3 stars at the end of our game recaps, series recaps, and just talking about how much positive contribution you are providing the A's. And with that brings us to a close of another edition of A's Day. We appreciate you spending part of your Tuesday or whenever you're listening to this show to listen to our thoughts on everything going on with the Athletics. On today's show, we talked about Michael Stefanic being the next 1-year minor league deal as the A's continue to add depth to their organization. He does have an invite to Major League Camp. We provided our insight on what we believe it means for the outlook of the 2026 A's. We updated you on any winter meetings rumors that were circulating involving the A's. And aside from getting a little bit clearer of a picture of the Ketel Marte trade package, as well as rumors circulating about Severino garnering trade interest from other teams that are looking for starting pitching help, not much from the A's camp themselves. It is early in the week, so hopefully on our next show, we'll have a lot more to share for you, or at least a couple of rumors, maybe even a signing. We will have to wait till the end of the week for all of that. And then we wrapped up today's show talking about 2 prime candidates that are due for a bounce back in 2026, as we are rolling the dice and betting that Luis Severino and Lawrence Butler are going to have much better years in 2026 for the A's. We'll be back on Friday, once again, back behind the mic, updating you on anything going on in A's Nation. We'll discuss any transactions and rumors that do circulate over the next few days. Hopefully that does ramp up. It'll be disappointing and not expected if that ends up being the case by week's end. We'll also share the results of what the A's did from tomorrow's Rule 5 draft that will be taking place in Orlando, Florida. And then we will continue on with our series of this player in A's history. We'll be taking it to the 2000s decade, someone that you all may be familiar with. We're excited to be back talking consistently through this offseason, garnering our hopes and expectations a day closer to the return of A's baseball for the 2026 season. We can't wait to get back covering it on an even more regular basis. But I will say the offseason has been hot in the streets in terms of from the Major League perspective. Hopefully the A's can start getting going. We'll see you all again back behind the mic for Friday's show to kick off your weekend, and hopefully we've got some big news. Once again, I'm your host, Joe Grado. Thank you for all of your time. We appreciate each and every one of you, the lovely audience as always. Holy Toledo, let's go A's.